My mom accused me of stealing my father's medication to cover up that she was selling his pills to fund a cult. My own mother called elder services saying I was stealing my dying father's medication money. She was the one who'd been robbing him blind for months. I was stocking shelves at Target when my phone rang Tuesday morning. Unknown number, but I answered anyway because when your dad has terminal brain cancer, every call could be an emergency. Is this Liz Presley? Yes? This is Patricia from Riverside General Hospital Administration. We need you to come in immediately regarding your father, Harold Presley. There's been a serious incident involving medication theft. Is he okay? What happened? Mr. Presley is fine. This concerns allegations about missing controlled substances from his room. How quickly can you get here? 25 minutes later, I was sitting in a sterile conference room across from Patricia, a security guard named Mike, and a woman from hospital pharmacy I'd never seen before. Miss Presley, we've discovered significant discrepancies in your father's medication inventory over the past several weeks. Entire bottles of OxyContin have gone missing from his bedside supply. I blinked at her. Missing? What do you mean missing? Your father is prescribed 90 tablets of 30 milligram OxyContin weekly for pain management. In the last month, approximately 240 tablets have disappeared from his room. The pharmacy woman slid a clipboard across the table, charts showing pill counts, dates, times. None of it made sense. I don't understand. Are you saying someone stole them? The security guard cleared his throat. Your mother filed a report with us. She claims you've been taking your father's pain medication. The room tilted. She what? Mrs. Presley says you've been acting strangely around the medication, asking questions about dosage and timing. She says you've seemed desperate about money and mentioned needing to sell things to pay bills. That's not, I never said anything about selling. She also reports that you've been agitated when questioned about your father's pain levels and that you've had access to his room during off hours when nursing staff isn't present. This wasn't real. This was some nightmare I was about to wake up from. You think I'm stealing my dad's pain medication? Patricia leaned forward. Miss Presley, we understand that your father's illness has created financial strain for your family. Medical bills, lost income, the stress of caregiving. These situations can push people to make desperate choices. I'm not desperate. I'm working 2 jobs to pay for his treatment, which is exactly why your mother is concerned. She says you've mentioned being overwhelmed by the costs, that you've had to drop out of school, that you're barely sleeping. Because I'm trying to keep him alive. The words exploded out of me. I dropped out of grad school so I could work full-time. I work at Target during the day and wait tables at night because insurance doesn't cover everything. I sleep 4 hours a night because I spend every free minute here with him. Miss Presley, we need to ask, have you taken any medication from your father's room? No. Have you sold any controlled substances? No. Are you currently using any illegal drugs or prescription medication not prescribed to you? No. I looked at each of their faces. They didn't believe me. I'm not addicted to drugs. I barely have time to eat, let alone develop a drug habit. The pharmacy woman spoke for the first time. The missing medication has significant street value. They could be sold for $6,000 to $8,000. I don't know anything about street value. I know my dad's been in more pain lately, and I've been worried the medication wasn't working. According to your mother, that's when you started asking suspicious questions about his dosage and pain management. Miss Presley, until this investigation is complete, you're not permitted in your father's room or anywhere on the oncology floor. You're banning me from seeing my dad. This is standard protocol for potential drug theft cases involving family members. But he's dying. We understand this is difficult, but we have to protect our patients and controlled substances. I stood up on shaking legs. How long will this investigation take? These things typically take 1 to 2 weeks, depending on what the police find. Police? We're required to report suspected drug theft to law enforcement. You'll likely hear from detectives within the next few days. The security guard stood up too. I'll walk you out, Miss Presley. I followed him through corridors I'd walked hundreds of times over the past 3 months, past the family lounge where I'd slept in chairs, past my dad's room where I could see him through the window, looking small and confused in his hospital bed. He waved when he saw me in the hallway. I waved back, trying to smile, knowing it might be the last time I'd see him conscious. I sat behind the wheel and tried to understand how my mother could believe I was stealing medication from my dying father. My phone buzzed. Text from Mom. I'm sorry, honey. I hope you get the help you need. She really believed I was guilty. What the actual fuck? 3 months ago, when Dr. Backley said the words, aggressive brain tumor, and 6 months at most, I watched my dad's face go completely blank. But it was my mom who started crying before he did. She'd always been the emotional one in our family, the one who cried at commercials and kept every card I'd ever made her. Dad had spent 25 years protecting Mom from anything harsh or complicated. She'd never paid a bill, never dealt with insurance, never even pumped her own gas. When the cancer diagnosis came with a treatment plan that cost more than most people's houses, I knew I had to step up. I dropped out of my master's program that week, went from part-time retail to full-time, added weekend restaurant shifts, picked up holiday hours wherever I could find them. 60, 70-hour weeks became normal. I'd work Target from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m., grab a protein bar, then wait tables until midnight, sleep 4 hours, repeat. Mom stayed at the hospital during Dad's treatments. She'd bring him crossword puzzles and read him articles from Reader's Digest. I'd show up after work with real food from outside. Dad hated hospital meals, and we'd watch Netflix on my laptop until visiting hours ended. It worked for the first month. Mom handled the emotional support. I handled everything else. Dad seemed stable, responding well to treatment. The medical bills were crushing, but I was managing. Week 6, I noticed Dad wincing more during my evening visits. When I asked how his pain was, he'd look at Mom before answering. "It's fine, sweetheart. The medication helps," but he didn't look fine. He looked exhausted in a way that went beyond cancer tired. "Maybe we should ask doctor." "Backlay about adjusting your pain meds," I suggested. Mom jumped in immediately. "The doctors know what they're doing. Don't second-guess them." Week 10 was when Mom started getting defensive about my questions. "Honey, you're working so hard. You're seeing problems that aren't there. The doctors have everything under control. I'm just concerned about Dad's pain levels. You're stressed about money. It's making you paranoid about his care." "I'm not paranoid. I'm paying attention. Maybe you should focus on work and let me handle the medical stuff." But Dad kept complaining about pain, and Mom kept deflecting whenever I brought it up. Week 11, I decided to be more direct. "Mom, I think Dad needs his pain medication adjusted. Can we talk to doctor? Backlay together?" "Stop interfering, Liz. You don't understand medical things like I do." I knew something was really wrong. Mom had never claimed to understand medical anything. She'd spent 3 months asking me to explain everything doctors told us. The thing about my mom is that she's always been incredibly naive about the real world. Dad used to joke that she could get scammed by a kid selling lemonade. She'd never had a job, never lived alone, never made a major decision without Dad's input. When telemarketers called, she'd listen to their entire pitch because she was too polite to hang up. She believed every email forward about miracle cures and government conspiracies that her church friends sent her. Dad and I had learned to monitor her Facebook because she'd share obvious fake news stories without checking them. She was the kind of person who would give her social security number to anyone who asked nicely enough. I realized that her sheltered life had left her completely defenseless against anyone who wanted to manipulate her. But at the time, I just thought she was being weird about Dad's medication, not that someone might be taking advantage of her desperation to save him. When I confronted Mom about the discrepancies, she got angry. "You're accusing me of something terrible, Liz. How could you think I'd hurt your father?" "I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm trying to figure out why his medication isn't lasting as long as it should. You're working too much. It's affecting your judgment." By week 13, Dad was asking me why his pain was getting worse while his medication was supposedly staying the same. Mom was acting increasingly hostile toward any questions about his care, and I felt like I was going insane, wondering if my exhaustion was making me paranoid or if something was genuinely wrong. I was restocking makeup displays when my phone rang again. Same unknown number from the morning, but this time it was 2 p.m., and I'd been stress-eating granola bars in the Target break room, trying to figure out how to convince the hospital I wasn't a drug addict. "Miss Presley, this is Detective Balwin with Riverside Police Department. We need to speak with you about the allegations at the hospital." My granola bar turned to sawdust in my mouth. "Allegations? Drug theft charges. Can you come to the station today, or would you prefer we come to your workplace?" I looked around the break room at my coworkers, pretending not to listen. "I'll come to you." The police station smelled like burnt coffee and disinfectant. Detective Balwin was younger than I expected, with kind eyes that made everything worse, because I could tell he actually felt bad for me. "Your mother filed a detailed report yesterday evening. She claims you've been stealing your father's pain medication for several weeks." "She's wrong. According to her statement, you've been acting erratically about money, asking suspicious questions about your father's medication schedule, and becoming agitated when she tries to monitor his pills. She says you mentioned needing money to pay bills multiple times and that you've seemed desperate about finances." "I am desperate about finances. My dad has brain cancer. Medical bills are destroying us." She also says you've been asking detailed questions about the street value of prescription medication. "What?" "No, I haven't. According to her report, you asked how much his pills were worth and whether insurance covers the full cost. I asked about insurance coverage because I'm the one paying the bills. I've never asked about street value." Detective Balwin consulted his notes. "She says you've been visiting your father during odd hours when nursing staff is minimal, and that you've had unsupervised access to his medication." "I visit after work because that's when I'm free. I work 70 hours a week to pay for his treatment." "Your mother seems genuinely concerned about your behavior. She said this was very difficult for her to report, but she's worried about your father's welfare and your potential drug problem." The phrase potential drug problem hit me. My own mother had convinced police I was a drug addict stealing from my dying father. "Can I see her report?" "I can share some details. She says the suspicious behavior started about a month ago. You began asking questions about pill counts, medication timing, pain management protocols. You seemed overly interested in his prescription details. Because his pain wasn't being managed properly. She says when she tried to discuss her concerns with you, you became defensive and accused her of not caring about his treatment. That conversation, the one where I'd asked why she was moving his pills around and she'd gotten angry, she'd turned my concern into evidence that I was defensive about drug theft. She also reports that you've been taking photos of his medication bottles. I had been taking photos to document the discrepancies I was noticing. Now it looked like I was casing his pill supply. Your mother was very upset when she filed this report. She kept saying she never thought you'd do something like this, but that addiction changes people. I'm not addicted to anything. She mentioned you've been losing weight, sleeping less, seeming agitated and paranoid, classic signs of stimulant abuse. I'm losing weight because I'm working 2 jobs and living on granola bars. I'm sleeping less because I'm spending every free hour at the hospital. Detective Baldwin looked genuinely sympathetic. Miss Presley, I understand this is a difficult situation. If you're struggling with addiction, there are resources available. Treatment programs, support groups. I don't need treatment for addiction. I need you to figure out who's actually stealing my dad's medication. Your mother filed the report because hospital staff questioned her about missing pills. She was cooperative and concerned. You, on the other hand, matched the behavioral profile of someone with prescription drug dependency. I wanted to scream that of course I matched the profile. I was a stressed, exhausted, financially desperate person dealing with a family medical crisis. Half the people in America would match that profile. Are you arresting me? Not at this time. But we'll be conducting a full investigation. Don't leave town and don't attempt to contact your mother or visit the hospital until this is resolved. I can't see my dad? Hospital has banned you pending the investigation. That's standard protocol. He's dying. He might have weeks left. If you're innocent, this will get sorted out quickly. At home, I sat in my driveway staring at my apartment building, trying to process that my own mother believed I was capable of stealing pain medication from my dying father. Not just believed it, had reported it to police with enough convincing detail that they were treating me like a legitimate suspect. My phone buzzed. Text from Mom. I pray you'll get clean and we can be a family again. I screenshotted it and forwarded it to the detective. If she wanted to paint me as a drug addict, she could explain why she was texting her supposedly dangerous, drug-stealing daughter about family reconciliation. But mostly, I just sat there wondering how the woman who'd bandaged my scraped knees and helped with algebra homework could be so convinced that I'd steal from my own dying father that she'd call the police on me. The call from Detective Baldwin came 6 days later. 6 days of me sitting in my apartment, banned from seeing Dad, watching my phone blow up with calls from reporters who'd somehow gotten wind of the hospital drug theft story. 6 days of my target manager asking uncomfortable questions about why police had called asking about my work schedule. 6 days of wondering if my dad thought I'd abandoned him. I called my friend Maya, the only person who'd believed me when I explained what was happening. This time, Detective Baldwin wasn't alone. There was another detective, a woman who introduced herself as Detective Park, and a man in a suit who looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. Miss Presley, we've completed our investigation into the missing medication from your father's room. I held my breath. You're not being charged with any crimes. The relief was so intense I felt dizzy. Maya grabbed my hand. Hospital security footage shows that you never had access to your father's medication during the time periods when pills went missing. Every instance of theft occurred during hours when you were verifiably at work. So, you know I didn't do it? We know you didn't do it. Detective Baldwin opened a thick file folder. But what we found is complicated. Detective Park leaned forward. Miss Presley, your mother has been stealing your father's medication and selling it online for the past month and a half. The words didn't compute. What? We found multiple accounts on pharmaceutical resale websites registered to your mother. She's been stealing your father's OxyContin and selling it to online buyers. I stared at them. That's impossible. My mom doesn't even know how to use email properly. Someone taught her. We traced payments from her sales to an organization called New Life Healing Center. She's spent over $8,000 with them in the past 6 weeks. The man in the suit spoke for the first time. I'm Agent Williams with the FBI's White-Collar Crime Division. New Life Healing Center is what we call a medical predation cult. They target families dealing with terminal illnesses and sell fake cancer treatments. A cult? They operate primarily out of hospital waiting rooms and online support groups. They identify vulnerable family members, usually primary caregivers who spend long hours at hospitals, and convince them that traditional medicine is deliberately keeping their loved ones sick. Detective Baldwin pulled out printed screenshots. We found extensive text message conversations between your mother and a woman named Madison Grande, who claims to be a cancer recovery specialist with New Life. He handed me the phone screenshots. Madison. Linda, I can see how worried you are about Harold. The sadness and stress in your energy field is very strong. Mom, I just want him to get better. The doctors keep saying the treatment is working, but he seems to be in so much pain. Madison. That's because the chemotherapy is poisoning his natural healing abilities. Your husband's body is trying to heal itself, but the toxic treatments are blocking his recovery. Mom. But the doctors say, Madison, doctors make money keeping patients sick, Linda. The pharmaceutical companies have trained them to suppress natural healing. I've seen hundreds of families break free from this cycle. I looked up at Detective Baldwin. When did this start? About 7 weeks ago, according to the message history. He handed me more screenshots. Madison, I'm concerned about your daughter's energy, Linda. Young people who focus too much on money and conventional medicine can actually block healing energy from reaching patients. Mom. Liz has been asking a lot of questions about Harold's medication lately. She seems obsessed with the pills. Madison. That's exactly what I mean. Her fear-based thinking and focus on pharmaceutical solutions is creating negative energy around Harold. As long as she's involved in his care, his natural healing will be suppressed. Mom. But she's just trying to help. She's working so hard to pay for everything. Madison. Linda, I need you to understand something important. Liz's financial stress and anxiety about conventional treatment is literally poisoning Harold's recovery environment. Her presence is making him sicker. I felt sick reading this. She convinced my mom that I was hurting Dad just by being there? Agent Williams nodded. Classic isolation tactics. They identify the family member most likely to expose their scam, usually the person asking practical questions or managing finances, and convince the victim that this person is the problem. Detective Park handed me another set of screenshots. Madison, if Harold is going to heal, you need to remove the negative influences from his environment. That includes stopping the toxic treatments and limiting contact with people who don't support natural healing. Mom, I can't tell Liz to stop visiting. She's his daughter. Madison, Linda, you have to choose. Do you want Harold to heal, or do you want to protect Liz's feelings? You can't have both. Her negative energy is killing him. Mom, what should I do? Madison, stop the pharmaceutical treatments. Use the money you're spending on poison to invest in proven natural healing protocols, and find a way to remove Liz from the healing environment. Oh my God, I whispered. Detective Balwin flipped to more recent messages. This is from 4 days before your mother filed the police report. Mom, the hospital staff said pills are missing from Harold's room. They are asking questions. I don't know what to tell them. Madison, this is exactly what I warned you about. The medical establishment will try to blame you for breaking free from their control. Tell them the truth, that Liz has been acting strangely around the medication. You've been worried about her behavior but didn't want to believe your own daughter could be stealing from her father. Mom, I can't accuse Liz of stealing. Madison, Linda, listen to me carefully. Liz's obsession with Harold's medication, her desperate financial situation, her agitation when you ask questions, these are classic signs of prescription drug addiction. You're not accusing her falsely. You're recognizing a problem that's been developing for weeks. Mom, but what if she's not? Madison, if you don't report this, they'll assume you're the one stealing medication. Do you want to leave Harold alone in the hospital? Or do you want to get Liz the help she needs while protecting yourself and Harold? I stared at the messages. She coached my mom to blame me. Extensively, Agent Williams confirmed. Madison Grande provided your mother with detailed instructions on what to tell hospital staff and police. Detective Park handed me the final set of screenshots. Madison, remember, Linda, Liz's addiction makes her unpredictable and potentially dangerous. Emphasize that you're afraid of her reaction if confronted directly. Mention her financial desperation, her obsession with Harold's medication schedule, her defensive behavior when questioned. Mom, this feels wrong. Madison, what feels wrong is letting addiction destroy your family while Harold suffers. You're saving both of them by taking action now. I set the phone down with shaking hands. My mom really thought she was helping Dad by accusing me? Your mother was manipulated by someone who's very good at exploiting desperate people, Agent Williams said. Madison Grande has been running this scam for 3 years. We've identified at least 40 families she's targeted. Detective Balwin pulled out bank records. We've traced your mother's payments to New Life Healing Center. $8,200 total. In exchange, she received bottles of herbal supplements that cost about $30 to produce. What's in them? Mostly sugar pills. Some contain dangerous herbs that can interfere with cancer treatment. One of the supplements your mother was giving your father contains compounds that can reduce the effectiveness of his pain medication. That explained why Dad's pain management had been getting worse. Where's my mom now? She's in psychiatric evaluation at County General. When we showed her the evidence that she'd been scammed, she had what doctors are calling a severe dissociative episode. What does that mean? She can't process that she was manipulated into accusing you. Her mind is protecting itself by either denying the evidence or believing that you and we are all part of some conspiracy against her. She's been asking for Madison Grande, insisting that Madison can explain everything. Detective Park looked uncomfortable. There's something else. Your father died yesterday morning. The room went silent except for the buzzing fluorescent lights overhead. What? He passed away around 6 a.m. His pain medication had been so inconsistent over the past weeks that his body couldn't handle the stress anymore. The medical examiner says the inadequate pain management likely accelerated his decline. Maya squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. Your mother's theft didn't just steal medication, Agent Williams said quietly. It contributed to your father's death. And her accusations ensured that you weren't there during his final days. I felt myself starting to hyperventilate. Did he ask for me? Detective Balwin nodded. According to nursing staff, his last coherent words were asking them to tell his daughter he loved her. He died thinking you'd abandoned him. I doubled over and threw up on the police station floor. When I could speak again, I looked up at Detective Balwin. What happens to Madison Grande? We arrested her this morning. She'll be charged with mail fraud, wire fraud, and exploitation of vulnerable adults. She's looking at 15 to 20 years. And my mom? That's complicated. Technically, she committed theft in filing a false police report. But given the extent of her manipulation and her current mental state, the DA is likely to recommend psychiatric treatment instead of jail time. She destroyed everything, I whispered. Agent Williams leaned forward. Liz, I need you to understand something. Your mother is as much a victim here as you are. Madison Grande specifically chose her because she was vulnerable and isolated. This wasn't a random crime. It was a targeted psychological operation designed to tear your family apart. But she chose to believe a stranger over her own daughter. She chose to believe someone who spent weeks earning her trust and exploiting her desperation to save her husband's life. Detective Park handed me a business card. There's a support group for families affected by medical predation scams. They meet Thursday nights at the community center, other people who've been through similar situations. I stared at the card. How many other families? More than you'd think. Madison Grande alone has destroyed dozens of families over the past 3 years, and she's just one of many people running similar scams. Detective Balwin stood up. We'll need you to testify when Madison Grande goes to trial. Your experience helps establish the pattern of manipulation and family destruction that makes this a federal crime. What about the hospital? Do they know I was innocent? We've provided them with a full report. Your ban has been lifted, and they've been advised that you were wrongfully accused. Too late for that to matter. Maya spoke for the first time. We should go. You need to process this. I tried to understand that my father was dead, my mother was insane, and a stranger named Madison Grande had orchestrated the destruction of my entire family as part of a business model. Maybe somewhere in a psychiatric ward, my mom probably still believed she'd been trying to save Dad's life, and maybe, in her broken mind, she still believed I was the one who'd hurt him. Update. Edit. A lot of people have been asking for an update on my situation after my original post went viral. I wasn't sure I wanted to share more, but my therapist thinks it might help with my healing process. Also, some of you have reached out saying you're dealing with similar situations, so maybe this will help someone else avoid what happened to my family. Let me start with the hardest part. I never got to say goodbye to my dad. The funeral was 3 weeks after he died. I spent those weeks fighting with the hospital about releasing his body, dealing with insurance companies who wanted to investigate the suspicious circumstances around his death, and trying to figure out how to pay for burial costs when Mom had stolen most of our savings for fake cancer cures. Mom couldn't attend the funeral. She was still in psychiatric hold at County General. The doctor said bringing her to Dad's funeral could trigger a complete psychotic break, so I buried my father alone. 47 people came, mostly his coworkers and neighbors. None of Mom's family showed up because they'd heard about the drug theft investigation and decided I was too toxic to associate with. Dad's brother flew in from Phoenix. Uncle Mike hadn't spoken to our family in 5 years because of some argument I never understood, but he showed up and paid for the burial plot when he realized I was handling everything alone. He also told me something that's been eating at me for months. Your dad called me 4 days before he died, Uncle Mike said after the service. He was confused about why you weren't visiting anymore. He thought maybe you were angry at him for getting sick. I had to excuse myself to throw up in the funeral home bathroom. The financial devastation has been complete. Dad's medical debt sits at $247,000. Insurance covered most of his treatment, but the experimental drug therapy had a $50,000 deductible, plus copays and out-of-network costs. Mom's psychiatric treatment has cost $89,000 so far, and she's still hospitalized. Insurance considers her condition pre-existing because she wasn't diagnosed before the criminal behavior started. I spent $31,000 on legal fees fighting the false accusations. Even though I was cleared, I had to hire a lawyer to protect myself during the investigation. The funeral cost $8,500, thank God for Uncle Mike. My current total debt is $396,700. My current income is $24,000 annually working retail, because having a drug theft investigation on your background check makes you basically unhireable anywhere else. At 24, I'm financially destroyed for the next decade minimum. Mom's been diagnosed with something called cult-induced psychological trauma combined with severe dissociative disorder. Basically, her mind can't handle the reality of what she did, so it's created an alternate version of events where she's still the victim. In her current mental state, she believes Madison Grande was a real cancer specialist trying to save Dad. She thinks I actually was stealing Dad's medication sometimes. She believes Dad's death was caused by me blocking his healing energy, and that she's in the hospital because I had her falsely committed. So Mom gets to live in a fantasy where she was trying to save Dad, and I get to live in reality where she destroyed everything. Madison Grande's trial was supposed to be my chance for justice. Instead, it was 6 more months of trauma. Madison took a plea deal. Instead of the 15 to 20 years Agent Williams originally mentioned, she got 8 years with possibility of parole in 4. Why? Because her lawyer argued that she genuinely believed in the alternative treatments she was selling and that she was manipulated by her own suppliers into thinking the treatments worked. Complete bullshit. The FBI found evidence that Madison knew exactly what she was doing, but she's a 54-year-old white woman with no prior record, so the judge bought the misguided believer narrative. I had to testify about watching my father die in pain while being banned from his bedside. Madison sat there the entire time taking notes and whispering to her lawyer. When I finished, she asked her lawyer to give me a message. Tell Liz I'm sorry for her loss, but her father's pain was caused by the toxins from chemotherapy, not by our healing protocols. Detective Park's suggestion about the support group was the only helpful thing to come out of this nightmare. Thursday nights at the Riverside Community Center, 8 to 15 people whose families were destroyed by medical predation scams. The stories are horrifying and depressingly similar. We're all financially ruined. We've all lost family members to preventable deaths. The support group is the only place where people understand that our loved ones weren't just sick, they were systematically manipulated into believing that we were the enemy. My current situation is pretty bleak. I live in a studio apartment and work at a different Target because I couldn't afford to stay in my old place. I see a therapist twice a week on sliding scale fees because I'm poor now. I volunteer with elder fraud prevention programs on weekends, which helps me feel like something good might come from this nightmare. Mom is scheduled to be released to a supervised living facility next month. Her sister in Oregon has agreed to take guardianship, which means I won't be responsible for her care. I'm listed as her emergency contact, but she's made it clear she doesn't want contact with me unless it's to admit the truth about my addiction. People keep asking if I forgive my mom. I don't know how to answer that. I understand that she was manipulated. I understand that she thought she was saving Dad's life. I understand that she's mentally ill now and can't fully comprehend what happened. But understanding isn't the same as forgiving. Maybe that makes me a bad person, but I can't forgive her for that. Even if she was manipulated, she still made choices. And those choices killed my father and destroyed my life. Some trauma doesn't get better. Some families don't heal. Sometimes the system fails so completely that there's no justice, no closure, no redemption arc. Sometimes bad people destroy good families and face minimal consequences while the victims spend years rebuilding their lives from nothing. That's not the ending anyone wants to hear, but it's the truth. If you're dealing with something similar, I'm sorry. It's going to be harder than you think, take longer than you expect, and hurt worse than you can imagine. But you'll survive it, because you have to. Edit 2. Thank you for the golden supportive messages. Please stop asking for Mom's location or Madison Grande's prison details. I'm trying to move forward, not enable more drama. Edit 3. If you're dealing with a similar situation, feel free to PM me. I can't give legal advice, but I can share resources and support group information.